Satnam, and welcome. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So happy to have you with us again for another episode of Home Kirtan and Chat. And I'm so delighted that today our guest is GuruGanesha Singh. And he's going to be with us for this session. And many of you know him, but we're going to talk a lot about his background and his music. But first I'd like to ask him to offer us some music. So please go ahead. And welcome GuruGanesha.
Thank you, Pritpal Singh. And I thought since you asked for a little music, I would bring my better half along. And we shall do a shabad for you. Man kyo bairag karega Satguru mera pura. And this shabad lifts you from any kind of sadness, any pains in the heart, into a more joyful, peaceful place. Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera pura. Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera pura. Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera Prabha hoi kirpalata, eho manalai. 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 Satguru seva sabe palapai. Satguru seva sabe palapaya. Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera pura. Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera pura. Manakyo beraga karega Satguru mera pura. Satguru mera Manasakadata Sapasokadidana Manasakadata Sapasokadidana soganidana Manasakadada Sava soganidana Amarita Sara Sadahi Varapura Amarita Sara Sadahi Varapura Manakyo Beraka Areka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera Manakyo Beraka Areka Sate Gurumera Sate Gurumera Pura Manakyo Beraka Areka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera Pura Manakyo Beraka Areka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera Charanakamala Antaradare Charanakamala Antaradare Charanakamala Antaradare Charanakamala Antaradare Pragati Jotamile Rama Pyare Pragati Jotamile Rama Pyare Manakyo Beraka Areka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera 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 Panchasaki Mangalagaya Panchasaki Mangalagaya Panchasaki Mangalagaya Panchasaki Mangalagaya Anahadamani Nadapajaya Anahadamani Nadapajaya Mera Mera Kareka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera Manakyo Beraka Kareka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera Manakyo Beraka Kareka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera Manakyo Beraka Kareka Sate Gurumera Pura Sate Gurumera
Beautiful. We are having some audio issues. Your music is sounding great. But people are commenting that they notice the echo in my vocal as well. So I apologize to everybody. And I'll try to keep my talking to a minimum. Anyway.
Oh.
No. Tell me a little bit about this Shabad. Oh my mind, yours is so sad.
Yeah. If the Lord becomes merciful, then one's soul is merged with the Lord. And my soul, my heart, why feel sad when the true Guru, who's got your back, has got your back? So it talks about Lord as being benevolent. And so it is for us to trust that Lord is benevolent. And when the mind is focused on the Nam, in the holy names of God, then all one's affairs are arranged, all sadness is lifted. And it's worked pretty well for me, I know, since I found the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib almost 50 years ago, and I'm so grateful.
Fantastic.
By the way, I want to thank my magnificent wife for joining. She'll join us again a little later on, but I think everybody knows that she's the woman who for 20 years has been this beautiful course called Journey into the Heart of Sikh Dharma. So I'm forever grateful for her inspiration in terms of really understanding Sikhi.
We all
Michael Underkar is her name.
She's wonderful, and you are so blessed to have her in your life.
Yes, I am.
God knows where you'd be otherwise.
There's more truth in there than you realize.
I recall that your father's family was active in musical comedy in vaudeville. Would you consider your childhood home a musical environment?
Yeah, it was. My father was very talented, and he was also bipolar. But when he was on the manic side of the bipolar, he was such a blast. And, it seems, I guess, there's a lot of people in show business that have a bit of that. He was a little bit like Robin Williams, He'd wake my sister and I up in the middle of the night, of a school night, 2 a.m. He said, come on, we got to shoot some pool and play some ping pong. We thought it was magnificent. Of course, it made my mother into the bad guy, right? They met in show business. It was an off-Broadway show where my father was playing the leading man, and the leading lady got sick, and my mother was the understudy. He'd never met her, actually. And he fell in love with her at first sight. They were in Lexington, Kentucky, doing a show there. And he asked her to marry him in the middle of the play, the first night they met. And she was like totally startled because the lines weren't in the play. She thought he was nuts, and he was a little nuts, so.
Oh, well.
They married 3 days later.
Very cool. What was your first instrument that you learned to play?
The guitar.
And I started to
introduce that at age 8.
Okay.
1958. And I got a good story about it. You want to hear it?
Sure.
So my... on Sunday evenings, and you're a similar age to me. Remember the Ed Sullivan Show on Sunday night? That was the #1 variety show in the country, and that's when, in '64, when the Beatles came to America, they were on that show. And back then, there were only a few channels. So we'd all sit around the TV on a Sunday night, no social distancing, lots of popcorn and stuff. And my father would get excited when they showed the band, because my older cousin, High White, was the studio guitarist in the Ed Sullivan Band. And I would get excited, that's my cousin. And they took us to visit him at one point when I was maybe close to 9 years old. He lived in New Rochelle. He was making some good money. And while we were there, we all went down to the basement because he wanted to show us his guitar collection. And he saw the eyes pop out of my head. And he looked at me and he said, pick one out. I didn't really know what he meant. So I'm looking all around. And then finally I fell in love with this semi-hollow body Guild electric cutaway, beautiful wood and beautiful kind of brass heads. And I pointed at that and he said, you would pick out my most expensive guitar. He pulls it off the wall, hands it to me, and he says, now learn how to play it. And the whole ride home, my mother says, we're getting you lessons. I said, I don't need lessons. No, we're getting you lessons. She got me a very taskmaster guitar teacher who gave me a half-hour lesson a week from age 8 to about 11 and a half, and really taught me the fundamentals of using both hands. And then I wore her down finally because I was more interested in baseball at that time in my life. Finally, about age 11 and a half, she said, all right. And I stopped lessons. But then when I'm 13, the Beatles come to America and I go, oh my God, I have one of those. And I fell in love with their music. And that got me started more serious. I had my first band then. Oh, we're frozen. Oh, too bad. Should I go out and come back in?
We are having some technical difficulties, but he's coming back. So there we go. Great. That was a great story. We got it all in before the problem.
Oh, good.
So tell me a little bit about your early days on the path of Kundalini Yoga and Sikh Dharma.
Well, in the late 60s, I got into hippiedom. And, went to college and I was, doing all that stuff. I got heavily into psychedelics and had an acid rock band, and we tried to live up to the genre, even in rehearsal. So 3.5, 4 years, I probably had about 100 to 150 LSD trips. And then I got to the point where there was this, the quiet voice, I call it the voice of the soul on the committee, was crying out and saying, hey man, you better find an alternative way to feel uplifted or you're going to die. And soon thereafter, I ran into a flyer, said Kundalini Yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan at the boathouse at Smith College. And it happened to be, my band was playing a mixer at Smith College, which is a famous women's school. They had invited all the guys from Holy Cross and Worcester Polytech. But after sound check, I'm sitting in the student union eating a Dannon cherry yogurt, and somebody comes walking around with these flyers. Really caught my eye, and I showed up that the following Wednesday night at the boathouse right by the water at Smith College, thinking I'm going to a class taught by Yogi Bhajan. And there were two gentlemen, a tall gentleman that I thought was Yogi G with a white hat, turban and long beard. And then he had a young man who brought a guitar. Turns out he was a young man named Singh, originally from Puerto Rico. He had a little orange turban and maybe 3 hairs on his chin. The yoga class was great, and then the deep relaxation was fantastic. But when we got out of the deep relaxation, Sat Rutan picks up the guitar and starts playing this beautiful chant, Guru Guru Vahe Guru Guru Ram Das Guru. I had no ideas what the words meant, but immediately upon hearing those words, something happened right here, and I felt like the gate opened up, and I had this sensation of tears started pouring out of my eyes, and it wasn't tears of sadness. It was kind of a tear that I'd never experienced before. Later on, I read that those are called the nectar of devotion. But it felt so beautiful. I felt something in my heart that I'd never felt before. So at the end of the class, I went up to the gentleman. I said, Mr. Bhajan, and he goes, ha, 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 I'm not Yogi Bhajan. And I said, well, then I don't know who you are or where you guys come from, because they were also very different looking than anybody I'd ever seen. I said, but could you take me with you? And they looked at each other and laughed. They said, okay. And I sat in the middle seat of their pickup truck. They stopped at a place called Golden Temple Cafe in Northampton, and I met Singh, who's still around. He and his wife Mayar are, wonderful leaders in the Phoenix Sikh Dharma community. And Singh served me my first cup of yogi tea. And then the guys took me to what I found out to be was the Montague Ashram, and 65 people were there getting ready for a 4 or 5 day, weekend Kundalini yoga retreat. And they said, well, do you want to stay for the weekend? I said, well, I have no wheels, so I guess I'm here. And I stayed, and, next morning, the Japji Sahib, I couldn't believe they said, we're getting up at 2. And I said, 2? That's perfect. That's when I generally get up being a musician, but it was 2 p.m. They said, no, 2 a.m. I said, 2 a.m. Because they needed to get up at 2 to get cold showers for 60-something people. We had 30 seconds a person.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You went to DC at some point.
Well, I didn't join the Montague Ashram, but soon after that weekend, I went back to college at Clark University, and the very first day I'm there, I'm on campus, and that same flyer there with Yogi Bhajan's picture, Kundalini Yoga, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I'd never seen this before at Clark. And I go, it's in the basement of one of the dorms, and I go there, and I'm the only student. And the teacher shows up, another tall guy with a turban and a beard named Singh. At the time, his name was Steve England. We did the class. It was another great class. And I said, well, where do you live? He said, come on, I'll show you. We walked about 1.5 miles, and he's got a little, on the lower floor of a little kind of a townhouse scene. They've got a little place there, and it turns out it's called Guru Ramdas Ashram. There's 2 single guys there, and that night when I showed up, I walked in, they gave me a little yogi tea, and took me for a tour. Guruji took me for a tour, and he walks into a room that Dave is painting. And I look at him, I introduce myself, and I said, what are you painting this room for? And they both looked at me and said, well, we're not sure. Maybe you. And I'm like, whoa, you mean this is available? And I moved into the ashram the next day. So this is February 1972. It was such a harmonic convergence, all of that. So I felt like, believe me, it did not feel like an accident. I felt like I was supposed to be, there.
So in between 1972 and your first recording.
Well, yeah, basically I was a living room chanter, I can't tell you how many Guru Ramdas chants I led in the DC community or wherever I was. But I kind of hit the pause button in my career as a musician, because when I was in that rock and roll band, we were starting to get traction. We got a recording contract with Pierce Southern Music in New York. We did a demo album. They wanted to put us out on tour. And I was the lead guitarist, so I was really working on my skills as a guitarist, put it on pause, until I started to really, in the 90s, mid to late 90s, I started to feel this tremendous longing to get, to play more music, and also to get out there and share it. It wasn't feeling like it was quite enough just kind of to do it in living rooms. And that's when, and I also had a sales training business, which is now called Conscious Selling, that was doing extremely well. So I had some discretionary income, and I started to finance the production of music with some of our Sikh Dharma artists that for example, there was Sanatam Kaur, has a voice that could wrest tears from a stone gargoyle, but up until that time, she'd done a few recordings. But I felt it was time to, record her in a way that was commensurate with the sound current that she carries. And then Guru Singh and I financed a few projects with him, and we had Seal sing on one, and Livtar, Sanatam, and I did 3 albums as the Peace Family. And then we started, I discovered Thomas Barkey. And he was a Kundalini Yoga student of Guru Singh's, and had come from Hamburg, Germany, had been a big rock and roll star in Europe, was living in LA, taking Kundalini Yoga classes, doing soundtracks for movies. And Guru Singh introduced me to him as a producer. And I was blown away with his skill level and how good a job he did bringing out the best performances in a singer. And if you listen to the album, The Game of Chance, that Seal sings on 4 tracks, Sanatam's also on there. But I started thinking, wow, he'd be a great producer for Sanatam. And in 2001, we did our first solo. We started Spirit. You know why Spirit Voyage got started is because all these albums that I was executive producing, you had to, back then, to produce them, you had to make a minimum of 1,000 of them. So, we didn't really have a distribution network at the time for selling music. So my garage was filling up with CDs. And one day my wife said to me, she said, honey, I want my garage back. And that's how Spirit Voyage got started. So we actually rented a warehouse and some offices.
I think in this time, every musician has a garage full of CDs.
Still have a garage full of...
Nobody wants to buy them anymore. Tell us a little bit about your early musical heroes.
Oh, well, there's one that stands above the rest for me. I joked, I called him my first guru, but he really was my musical guru, was Jerry Garcia, the lead guitar player of one of the main vocalists for the Grateful Dead. And still to this day, if I need a lift, I put on music, anything with Jerry, something about his guitar playing that connects me up with my soul, And you know how music can do that sometimes. Even music that doesn't necessarily have sacred words sometimes can connect you in a very deep way. So Jerry's guitar playing, for me, it was like a fast-running Western Massachusetts stream with the water bubbling over top. And he would be playing in this beautiful flow with triplets. And still to this day, he's my biggest influence on my lead guitar playing.
Although I hear... the Eagles,
love the Eagles,
the Buffalo Springfield, Jackson Brown influence, the Birds even. I hear that.
Really? Wow, man, I'm honored that you had mentioned those incredible names. But I mean, they were all influences, and I give myself permission to play what's coming through me,
So when did you form the GuruGanesha band?
Well, so Sanatam and I toured. From about 2000, we started doing these Kundalini Yoga Sikh Dharma weekends at different cities in North America, where we would do Kirtans Friday and Saturday night, and we'd each teach a workshop Saturday during the day. She'd teach a Nad Yoga workshop. I'd teach a prosperity workshop. And slowly over time, we started, we'd have 20, 30 people at those initial Friday evening chants, and word got out. We started to get invitations. So that grew and grew and grew. And so from 2000, about mid-2011, she and I toured all over the world. We did somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 to 1,000 concerts with some other wonderful musicians who toured with us. Krishna Prakash toured with us, playing tablas for a while. Satnam Singh Ramgotra. Girish toured with us for a while. Thomas Barkey toured with us for a while. And then Manish Vyas and Ramdas Singh, the guitarist and piano player and clarinet player who continues to tour with Sanatam even this day. And around 2011, I got really sick and had to be replaced for a tour. And also, Sanatam and I had been talking about, I just had this longing to kind of have a mantra rock band. So, we agreed to part ways, and she's done a magnificent job. I mean, also it's nice for her not to have the old man looking over her shoulder. It was time for her to kind of be the boss. We were kind of co-bosses for the first 10, 11 years, but it's been great. She's really grown her career. I rolled out the GuruGanesha band at Satnam Fest fall of 2011 with my dear brother Sakatar Singh, who you know, who he and I have been playing guitar and in the Washington, D.C. area, Northern Virginia community for 30, 35 years together. And then Singh, who had been, a part of the Millis Ashram for a number of years. And then there's a young man named Trip Dudley from New York City who's generally plays drums with us. And so that was well received. And then in 2013, I put together this tour, which was a legacy tour for me. It was so fun, and I'll never forget it, with David Pramal, Mitten, and Manos. And we would do an hour and 15 minutes to open up, and then they would play an hour and 15, an hour, 30 minutes. And my son, who is the CEO and owner of Bright Star Live Events, just did a magnificent job promoting it all over North America. And we were playing mantra rock to crowds of anywhere from 800 to 2,200 people for 26, 27 concerts. So that was fun. And we had Paloma Devi with us at the time, who was also a wonderful devotional music singer.
You've worked with some amazing female vocalists.
Yeah.
Many of them well known in the mantra world. But I noticed that on your most recent recording, you're relying more on your members of the band.
You mean it's a boy band?
It's a boy band. And sounding pretty good, actually. So,
we're having that. That was kind of my original dream, was to have kind of a mantra rock band like the original guitar bands, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, bass guitar, drums, everybody singing, So, the crowds aren't nearly as big without one of these magnificent, Adi Shakti goddess vocalists like Sanatram Kaur. When Sanam was having her baby, Sakatar and I took Narinjan and Jai Jagdish on a tour. And it was pretty obvious that they were going to be huge in this genre, both of them. And they have been.
I never knew there was a musical genre called Blue-Eyed Soul until I listened to the
song. That's a nice name for it.
Yeah, from Bobby Caldwell, that you were sort of merged into with another song. So
how
did
that happen? People love that live. And we actually have a recording of it. It starts with an old song I wrote called In the Light of My Soul, Waheguru, Waheguru. And then it moves midstream, kind of invisibly, kind of the way the Dead used to shift into other songs in the middle of song A, into What You Won't Do for Love, and which is an old Billy Caldwell R&B tune, because Singh, our bass player, is a jazz man. And one time in rehearsal, right out of those Wahegurus, he starts singing that song, and I'm going, my God, that's wonderful. And, and if you think of it in terms of God, the lyrics are perfect in terms of a devotional song. And every time we do that live, we shift into that, the place just, everybody jumps to their feet. So I'm blessed, because in the band, you'll see, even in the one song, we'll have three different lead singers for different parts of the song. It's a true collaboration. We're total equals. The only reason we called it GuruGanesha Band is I was more well known from all the years I toured with Sanatram, so I helped sell a few tickets. But we're a true band.
For all compositions are now coming from all members of the band?
Well, everything that we've rolled out 4 GuruGanesha Band albums, and almost every track was co-written by all three of us. One guy will start with a concept, but we'll make sure everybody's had an opportunity to weigh in. And it's so there's a lot of joy in our music, a lot of joy in the rehearsals, it's been really tough. Gursangan and I have been recording remotely, believe it or not, right from this office here. He's up in Vermont, and I'm working on, that Pavana Guru that we did for that Earth Day week. We added, Kirtan, the CEO, wrote a kind of a beautiful, poetic license translation of the Salok. And It's now turned into a beautiful track on this that's going to be rolled out by Spirit Voyage on August 28th. It's called Mysterious Pathway. We might even call the new album Mysterious Pathway.
Beautiful imagery.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, life is mysterious.
Yeah. So you have been a pioneer of what you just referred to as mantra rock.
Well, I mean, some people say that. I've been a pioneer of just bowing my head every morning and saying, "Thy will be done," and seeing what happens. One thing great that's happened during the pandemic, the room over here, it's a really nice room with a big window, and it's in the middle between my office studio here and our master bedroom. We've been using it for ironing, but since the Gurdwara was shut down, we've been talking for years about converting that into a little home Gurdwara. And we did it. And my wife made it so sacred and beautiful that we both been reading from the Guru a lot more. And my God, what medicine. Chant the name and all your affairs are arranged.
The striking thing about your music is that there is that sacredness, even though the music seems to be coming from a less sacred place of rock and roll. You've been able to bridge these very interestingly.
Well, interesting way back when, when I first met Yogiji, I went out to dinner with him and some staff members, and they said to him, well, he said, "Who's this guy?" And I'm wearing a headband and long hippie hair. And they said, well, he's a Kundalini yoga student now, and he's a rock and roll musician. And he goes, "Oh, I like your music." And my head popped up, and I said, "Well, I didn't know you knew my music, sir." He says, "I don't mean your music, silly. I mean your generation's music." And he talked about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And he said, "But, have you considered changing different lyrics than 'I can't get no satisfaction'?" And it was like, wow. He said, consider using mantras and divine poetry. And I was like, wow, in those days we'd say far out, but it planted a seed. And so we continued. We were all continued, writing melodies to the mantras and taking English translations of Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib and using Western chord progression. And I also was fortunate to meet this great teacher of classical Indian raga named Professor Padamjeet Singh. And I've studied a bunch of raga and I've blended some of that. There's an album Sanatana and I did together called Joy Is Now that has 2 or 3 tracks that blends classical Indian raga with, it's kind of like you got classical Indian raga all of a sudden in a Jerry Garcia lead guitar solo in there. So it may be considered sacrilege, but feels good to me.
Yeah, music is music.
That's how I feel.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing online these days with music.
Well, when people like yourself invite me to be part of this, I say yes, and because I'm dedicating my life to, hopefully touching and uplifting a couple of people here and there, and people seem to enjoy the music. I've done quite a few live things for Kundalini Yoga Sikh Dharma Mexico, and also the folks in Brazil. It's funny, the folks in Latin America like the upbeat music, they have fun. You'll be singing and you'll get what do they call that view where you get 25 little boxes and you can see everybody? The gallery view on Zoom, for example. And they're all dancing, even though it's muted, and it just my heart just starts leaping for joy, And seeing one mother in the middle of one of the little online performances I was doing, I was playing a new kind of a rock song called "Live for Each Other," and all of a sudden she invites all 5 of her children in front of the screen, and they all started dancing and singing. There was a part of Satnam, 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 Waheguru. I'm looking, I'm seeing 5 children. You could see them chanting and dancing. So, and also it's been kind of nice. This is the first time in decades that haven't been on planes 3-4 times a month, And, I'm feeling very, very grateful and very healthy. wow, we have this young person in our community that's shopping for Madhamunder and I because she feels we're in that vulnerable age group, and so we're we've got a refrigerator, and we feel so blessed and privileged to have food all over the place, to have the blessings of community via online, and I'm just praying for all the people on the planet that are suffering. I mean,
we're very glad we have you in our lives.
Well, I'm very glad.
And connecting to people. So I wonder if you'd like to connect for a couple of minutes with a little more music, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, how about we do that Guru Ram Das chant that when my ears first touched it, Ram Das, Guru Ram, the wise is that individual that serves the divine. That's how I relate to that mantra, the words Ram Das. And how about we do that a few minutes, and everybody can join us. Sorry, my wife looks like she's in the background. She deserves to be in the foreground.
Many thanks to GuruGanesha Singh and his wife, Madhamunder Kaur, for sharing this beautiful music with us. And today Your interview has been very uplifting, so I want to thank you. And we look forward to seeing you doing lots of things online and hopefully in person down the road.
Thank you, brother. This has really been a pleasure and a blessing. I really appreciate the invite to be with you in the congregation.
All right. And thanks to all of you who have been joining our program. And next week the guest will be Dadam Singh from New Mexico here. And Tuesday and Thursday we'll have our program Miracle Mantra Moment. So see you all then. Be safe, be healthy, stay at home if you can. All blessings. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.